Hello, my beautiful people. My name is Anutando Molosi, your girl. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's so good to be back. I feel like it's been ages since I've uploaded the video. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about life, all things relationships. We're talking about communication, which I think it's a very critical part of any relationship one can have, whether it be a friendship, a relationship with your siblings, and a romantic relationship. Just please do know that and I'm not a professional when it comes to this, but I'm just communicating based on my experiences, what I've been researching about. I've been so fascinated and so interested in the communication topic, and I've been listening to a couple of things, watching and reading a lot about it. And as a result, since it's always been the topic of my interest to talk about communication, I've had a lot. I had to actually sit down before this video and streamline what I want to say to you guys. Otherwise, it would have been like a whole day of a conversation. I actually wanted to have this conversation with someone so that we can unpack it thoroughly. I feel like if I was talking to someone, like having that conversation, it would have been much easier, but I guess she's a bit busy, so I had to sit down and talk about it. So yeah, let's get to it. Please don't forget to do the right thing. Hit that subscribe button, like and share my videos if you like what I'm going to say here at the end of this video. Welcome back, fam, and let's get to it. Like I said, topic for today is communication. Whew, this is a broad topic. When I was sitting down and rearranging my thoughts around this thing, I actually didn't know where to start. Because it feels a lot, and it's a lot on its own. So I thought maybe let me start from the beginning. It's always good, right, to start from the beginning. I thought let me start from the beginning and say communication is actually very critical in any relationship you can have with either your siblings, romantic relationship, friendship, whatever kind of relationship that you can have. Communication is such an important matter, because you find that most relationships, whether it's friendships and romantic relationships, they end because people can't communicate, because of lack of communication, and because people are talking past each other. Hence, I thought, let me come and perhaps share the few things that I know about communication, right? Because you find that if you were to listen to a story of people that loved each other, and you listen to one side of that story from one partner, and then you listen to the other partner, and you find that actually what they both say makes sense, just that what was lacking was that they couldn't communicate to each other, or if they did communicate, then they communicated past each other, which then made them miss each other in the process, and then ended up misunderstanding each other and making assumptions, and then leading to unresolved issues and their relationship ending, right? So I have made some notes, not notes per se, but some like point items that I want to talk about, so that I don't get to mix around what I want to say. So what I said here at first is that people don't know how to communicate to each other. And in most cases, I don't want this to sound like a gender, based kind of thing. It's not related to any gender. But in most cases, women are always like, say vocal too much. And then in most cases, men are so reserved. They don't like to to them, they don't like to argue. That's what they always say. But to us as females, we always want to communicate how we feel. If you want to know how a woman is, they will tell you without you asking or anything. Whatever they feel, whatever they want, we always we're talking. On the other side, males, they feel like females are dramatic, right? In fact, not all males, but most of them, they feel like women are dramatic. They like to, in fact, let me not make this thing if a male and female thing. In the relationship, there are partners who are vocal and there are partners who are not vocal. Let me call them the unresponsive partners. Those partners, you find that even when you guys are having and I don't want to say an argument, but when we're having a disagreement, or when I come to you and say, this is how I feel, what you did on this day made me feel this way, and so on, and you find that the unresponsive partner will always be like, it's those people that say, I'm just apologizing for the sake of peace. I hate that thing, but I know people do it. They just apologize because I'm saying you hurt me, you just apologize. And unresponsive people, it's those people that will apologize for the sake of peace, or they will label the partner who's more vocal and expressing how they feel and so on, and then they will label them as if they like to argue or they like arguments and they like to fight, you understand. And then you find that if you come to me and say, I'm sorry, one, I expect you to know what you're apologizing for, right? Because if you don't, then it means you're gonna go out and repeat it, right? And the person and the person then whom you said you saw it on, that means you're going to quickly repeat what you did, because one, maybe you don't even understand what you did or what's wrong about what you did or what actually hurt the other person about what you did, right? So you're gonna go back and repeat and repeat the same thing, and it's going to irritate the person that told you how they feel, and you apologize, believe me. Because if you're gonna do it the second time, they're gonna tell you that actually this is how it made me feel. Do it the third time and do it the fourth time, and they'll just be fed up with everything, because now you're repeating the same thing over and over again. And then two, if you label the person when they're communicating to you how you made them feel, you are actually invalidating their feelings. If you hurt someone, you actually don't have to choose whether you've hurt that person or not. If that person comes to you and tell you, what you did made me feel this way, I mean, you don't get to decide whether that's how they felt or not. They are telling you that's how they felt. So the least you can do is to believe them and apologize, or at least explain yourself and, apologize, because that's not how you meant what you were saying. If that's not how you meant what you were saying, at least apologize and own up to that, and tell them, explain to them, this is actually not how I meant this is how I meant it. At least they will understand, and not just say, I'm sorry, whereas you feel like or from your side, actually that's not what I meant, I didn't mean it that way, this is what I was meaning. They wouldn't know, you understand. And we always try to avoid assumptions when it comes to communication, because if I don't know how you feel, and you don't communicate with me how you feel, I will never know. And me assuming that this is what you might have meant, it might be wrong, totally wrong, because I can't be in your mind and you can't be in my mind. I think one thing we also need to learn in any relationship is that let's not expect our partners to be mind readers. We can't be mind readers, they can't be mind readers. Let's just be fair enough. Communicate, be open, tell people things that they need to know. And also, let's not make assumptions, right? You can't assume that maybe this is what this person says. If you don't understand something, ask There's a quote that always make me feel guilty because I feel like I'm not doing that enough. It says that if we don't tell people how we feel, how will they know? I feel like I am not telling people enough how I feel about them, especially the people that I love, the people that I appreciate. It's people that I don't communicate with every day, but they're making so much difference in my life just by me knowing them. They're making so much difference. And I always feel guilty if something happens to that person. Whereas I knew deep down that they meant a lot to me, but I actually never said it to them. It's a bad feeling, guys, believe me. So it's so important that you tell people how you feel because they won't know. And it's also important that when they tell you how they feel, then you don't make them feel bad for communicating their feelings, and you invalidate their feelings, you reduce them so that you're not supposed to feel this way. No, you don't get to decide how people feel, right? Okay, so I've come up with the sort of like the tips, I call it that way, that maybe can help into us improving how we communicate. No one is perfect, guys. I guess we're all working on that, right? So I'll go through them and then we can talk about them. Okay, 1, transparency and open communication. It eliminates a lot of misunderstandings and confusion in any relationship. So it's so important that you be transparent, you communicate, you don't expect your partners to read what's on your mind. That's number 1. It's so important, so important, right? Number 2, don't leave issues or challenges unresolved. That is so important because that actually links to what I said about unresponsive partners and people who just apologizing for the sake of peace. You know what happens when you do that in a relationship is that you think that you've solved things, but you haven't. You actually haven't solved anything. You've just created more problems, because you know what will happen is you will have problem number A, and then it's not resolved because you just said I'm sorry for the sake of apologizing, and then because you just said he's dramatic or she's dramatic, then she likes to argue, right? And you leave it. That does not change the fact that that person is feeling that way because of something that you're doing, and chances are you're gonna continue doing it because you feel like to yourself, I'm just thinking of an example that I can use here. You're actually thinking like to yourself, that is not a big deal, but to them, it's actually a big deal. Okay, I think one example that I can think of, this thing of lack of boundaries in a relationship. You find that I have a male friend, but I know he's just a male friend. He's been there, he's been in my life for ages. But the ages that he's been in my life, I was not in a relationship, for instance. And then now this person is used to calling me and texting me midnight, early hours of the morning. That is fine. And this person has always been number 1 in my life, right? Now I have a partner that I'm dating, and this person is used to us communicating around 1 a.m. in the morning. He can call me, he can tell me about anything, and I always tell him, and I continue as normal, right? Not thinking about what would happen to me, how would I feel if my partner were to have someone. I'm not saying leave your friends, but at least there must be boundaries. You've got someone now in your life that means now you can't be getting texts from males, especially if you haven't introduced this person to your partner, or you haven't introduced them to each other and they are comfortable with each other. Then now this person will be calling at 1 a.m, will be taking number 1 priority, will be number 1 priority in my life, and so on. Then my partner tells me how they feel about this person, and to me I feel like he's just being dramatic. This guy has always been in my life, he's my friend, and the minute I invalidate his feelings, it does not mean that he stops feeling that way about this person. You understand? So it only means I will continue and continue and continue, but that is not resolved. it remains as is, that he's not comfortable, and I'm tending to ignore it because I feel like he's just a friend. I'm not doing anything with him, but I'm not actually taking an effort to convince my partner that actually we're just friends. You understand? There's nothing going on between us. Like, even maybe by going an extra mile, introducing them to each other, going out with them, having lunch, so that he can actually see and be comfortable as well that this person is just a friend. You understand? That's one example that I can think of. So you move on just because you are stubborn, and you move on and you repeat the same thing with this person, whereas your partner is not happy. And then you do, and a lot of things happen, and they don't actually get resolved. That leads to partners, if you've been to or you've experienced people when they're fighting and they actually count back, in this date you did this, on that date you did that, blah 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 blah. It's a lot of things. It's actually more like a dustbin, like they've just been putting garbage in. No one is actually cleared, because those issues, all the issues that they know, has never been resolved. So it's actually like a dustbin that is full, and now it's like just overflowing, just because things are never getting resolved in this relationship. Either one partner is unresponsive and feels like the other partner, when they're communicating, like they like to talk, or they just being dramatic, whatever the case is. So it's always the case. So don't leave things unresolved, because it's just it's causing more problems for your relationship. Hence you find that people actually sometimes dump each other for things that happened a while ago. It's because those things were never resolved. That's where the problem is. And the next step in my list is avoid emotions. When you are going to have a conversation with your partner, try to be calm. Try to avoid emotions. Watch your tone. Sometimes people always say, there's a saying that how you say it is more important than what you're going to say. That's true, because especially for us females, we like to a lot, and it goes back to the thing that I spoke about, that if you said something and someone apologized and then they repeat it, but to them they're just apologizing for the sake of apologizing. I know at times we always get tired to keep repeating the same thing, like keep talking about the same thing over and over again, but the person keeps doing it anyways, because you just get fed up and just be like, but we spoke about this and so on. But it's so important. At any stage, there's no reason for you to raise your voice to anyone at any stage, regardless of whether they've repeated this thing a million times, or regardless of what they did. You have no right at all to raise your voice to someone else. So it's so important that we watch our tone and emotions. And I know it's also not good. For me, I always prefer to keep quiet when I'm angry, or when I feel like I'm still emotional or something about this thing. I prefer to keep quiet until I calm down, and then I can be sober minded, because I feel like when you have emotions and so on, you're not sober minded. And in most cases, when people are angry, they say things they will regret, right? So it's so important to watch your tone, especially ladies, because one thing about men, they like to be respected a lot. So if you are going to come and you'd be shouting at this person, they just shut down. Like, they can't hear anything. You actually just blocked their ears. You've blocked everything. You're just talking alone. They don't hear you at all. So it's so important that you understand that when you are going to have a conversation with someone, you actually want them to respond. So you going there bombarding them with words, and you being loud and shouting at them, you actually make them not to hear anything you are saying. So it's not helping anyone in the relationship and during the communication part. It's not important. Okay. And then another thing that I wanted to talk about is that it's so important when you feel like now you are heated or something. It's important to ask for time out, right? From both partners, it's important to ask for time out, just so you can calm down, just so you can think about it. Same applies when because you know what will happen when you just this links to what I just said previously. Now you know what happens is you'll just blame each other. It's so important that you don't point fingers at each other at any point, and you don't shout at each other, because when you're shouting now, you'll come out as someone who's just seeing the faults at your partner and not seeing faults from yourself. And the truth is, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes and so on. So it's not important for you to be the one who's pointing fingers at each other, because what will happen is the next person will feel attacked when you're doing that, shouting at them and telling them what they're doing wrong. They will feel attacked, and they will tell you also what you are doing wrong, and then it's just gonna be that back and forth. And then the next thing is you won't get any resolution, you won't get any solution to the problem that you actually wanted to solve in the first place. So it's important that when you feel like, okay, you know what, maybe the conversation has started, but now the emotions are too high, we're shouting at each other, which shouldn't happen, we're shouting at each other and so on. So just ask for time out, that okay, can we talk about this when we are calm, when we are less emotional? Can we just go give each other a break and then come back and have this conversation maybe later on? It always helps. And even if you don't say it to your partner when you are having a conversation at that moment, but if let's say I'm the partner, and then I come to you and say this, like I tell you what I think. At first, it might, maybe you will be telling, I'll be telling you maybe things that you did that I didn't like, because they made me feel a certain way. It's easier when communication is made. It's easier. One thing that affects communication is pride and always wanting to be right. It's easier for the next person to actually read it as if maybe I'm blaming them. But it's also important that you take time out for yourself. You go and actually self-introspect and think about it. And just, even if you didn't agree at the time when you were having that conversation with that person, but when you are alone, just think about it. Think about where they're coming from and why are they saying what they were saying. And then it's important to come back and say, actually, my whatever, your partner, whichever way you call each other, I actually thought about what you said. And even if you have things that you're blaming that person for, it's important that you always start with the ones that you actually saw yourself, that actually I was wrong there. You know, when you are alone, you know what you did wrong. And actually come back and say, actually, I've thought about what we discussed, and I'm sorry for ABCD. I feel like I would have done it differently, and I will. If you are going to change, do say that I'll work on it. And obviously, working on it sometimes doesn't mean that immediately it should stop. No, it means a person will constantly work on it. Like, for instance, if someone comes to you and say, I don't like the way you talk to me, maybe that's how you've always been talking, because we've got different cultures and so on. So for some people, some things are not a big deal, but for some people they are a big deal. But now if you happen to date this person but they don't like it, then you have to obviously work on it constantly and remind yourself that actually now this has to change. So you say, hey, I will work on it, and then you can come back and talk about what you didn't like about them, or maybe the way they delivered the message to you, the tone thing that I was talking about. Maybe they came to you as saying, you doing this wrong, you doing this wrong, or maybe they shouted at you. Maybe then you can, after acknowledging your faults, then maybe you can come back and say, actually, I'm sorry, and so on, and say, but I feel like, but maybe I feel like next time, if you approach me a bit calmer, and you're not shouting at me and so on, I feel like I can listen to you more, or I get to understand what you're saying more than when you are saying it to me with a high tone, shouting at me. I actually don't get to hear anything you are saying. You understand? So now you are killing one bird or two birds with one stone. You are actually now acknowledging the fact that you're wrong, and you will work on what the issue was, but you're actually telling them also as well that this is actually how I want you to communicate with me. We actually have to teach people how to love us, right, and how to treat us. They won't know until it's communicated. We can't get them to assume. Like, people can't assume, guys. Let's just get that straight, right? And then another thing is, don't listen to respond. That one is very much easier to do, because you always have answers, you always have something to say, but it's not important, because what happens is, once you listen to respond, you won't understand what the next person is saying to you, because while you're listening, you're actually just formulating answers in your mind, and that, okay, I'm gonna say that and that one. You actually not listening to what they're saying. They actually communicating their feelings to you, and by you just responding, just because maybe you're good at this talking thing, you will actually just end up invalidating their feelings. And like I said, you don't get to decide whether you've hurt a person or not. If they're telling you that you've hurt them, then you've hurt them. You don't get to decide. The least you can do is to first acknowledge how they are feeling, and do apologize, because that's not what you meant, right? You didn't mean to like hurt them or something, but you just responding now and be like, no, but this, no, but that. It's actually not helping anyone, because it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact that they're hurt, and they're hurt by your actions or the things that you've done or said. So it's so important not to listen to respond. It's not good at all when it comes to communication, right? And then the other thing is, just try not to provoke each other. It's so easy. Try, when you're having communications, just know that just know, like, just know it's not about you, right? It's, I don't know how to say this, guys. Just know, when you're having communication, or when you're having a conversation with someone, just know it's not about you. Just have a goal in mind, that, okay, I see this problem, and I think it will be an issue to the relationship. One thing you need to know, it's not about you, it's about the relationship. And it's so important to know that we are a team, and we're having the same goal to build or to fix the relationship if it's broken. But I feel like if we communicate, it wouldn't maybe get to that stage that we can say it's broken. So it's important to know that. And once you know that, and let love reign in this. Remember, there's a reason you are together. Let it reign in this. I mean, let it be, let it dominate. Because once you know, you love each other, and know that we are together because we love each other, we are together because of whatever the reason is. And this issue that we are having now, we are actually in the same team, whether it's done by you or you, or me, but we are actually in the same team. We are seeing that, we notice that this thing is going to dent the relationship that we're trying so much to protect. So the aim is to get a solution on how we can avoid this mistake that we are seeing, or how we can resolve this issue that is at hand now, that will hurt our relationship, which is our common goal, something that we're both trying to build. So it's so important that you don't point fingers. Then understand that when you go there, you don't point fingers, you don't hit below the belt, you don't say things that are going to provoke your partner or hurt them because you're feeling hurt at this stage. Because it's so easy when you're dating someone, you probably know more than anyone else about that person. You know things that will like provoke them. Don't do it, because the only thing is that you won't get any solution. You'll end up just exchanging words, and it's always not good. Always not good. Please guys, learn to communicate. One of the things that you need to know when it comes to communication is that try to be calm. Try to have those conversations when you're calm, and always remember you are in the same team, and always try to communicate with the same goal in mind. If you're trying to protect your relationship, you see a problem that will dent your relationship, then communicate with that goal in mind, that actually we both want this relationship to work. But here's the thing, even if it's picked up by me, that I see that it's going to dent our relationship coming up, then baby, let's try and fix it before it dents our relationship. Something that we both working on, that we both trying to protect by any means, right? So the minute we know that we are both in the same team, it's not a blame game. I'm not blaming you, because no one is perfect. I mean, no one is perfect, so we can't be blaming each other and pointing fingers at each other. So I think we'll master it. And also knowing that we have to communicate our expectations, we have to communicate how we feel, we have to be transparent and having an open communication, because we can't expect people to read our minds. We can't expect our partners to read our minds. They are not mind readers. If we don't tell them how we feel, how we want to be loved, what we expect, then they won't know. Cheers, my people. I love you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos.